Hey y'all, so today we're going to do a gun belt comparison. We're comparing the Kore 1.5-inch CCW gun belt to the Blue Alpha Gear 1.5-inch hybrid EDC belt. Let's get into it. If you like this content, like, sub, shares, all that good stuff, I really appreciate it. Also down below, coupon codes and merch, all of which help support the channel. Now into it. Now, both of these belts I have worn for multiple years. Both of these belts I've done previous reviews on. But these are two very common EDC belts when people are looking for a reinforced gun belt. And I thought I'd do a comparison of the two to kind of let people know which, might be best for them. So I'm going to go over briefly how each works and then go over the pros and cons of each belt and which I think is better in certain scenarios. We're going to start with the Kore belt. Kore belt is a ratcheting style belt, and it's got a buckle like this, right, and a ratchet. So when you first get the belt, it's going to be, full length, whatever, and you then trim it to your size. There's markings on the back here. I don't know if that shows up, but there's markings on the back. You cut it to your size, and then you attach the buckle. It kind of like snaps in there, and then it clicks in like so, and then you just ratchet it closed like so until your desired tightness, right? And then to release it, there's a little flipper back here that you lift up and you can slide it back out, making quick adjust actually really easy. This is a reinforced gun belt. They both are. And this honestly is really nice for if you are carrying a bunch of different guns or a bunch of different ways, right? Now on to the Blue Alpha Gear belt. So the Blue Alpha Gear belt works as what it is you get it and you kind of have to select your size, and what happens is they cut it to, and I believe you have a few inch back and forth once you set your size. So depending upon if you're carrying a different gun or whatever, or maybe it's around the holidays, you've got a little bit of leeway. But what happens is you set the belt, and this is Velcro, so you kind of adjust it how you want it, and then it's got this Cobra buckle that you just clip in, and then that's in like that, and then to undo it, there's these two little things here that you push in. That's how you unhook the belt. Pros and cons of each belt. Well, I'm going to start with where they're made. Now, every once in a while when I complain about something being made in China, it's usually people, oh, well, not everything can be made in the USA. Well, this belt is. The Blue Alpha Gear belt is made in the USA. That's a plus for this belt. It's nice to see an American-made belt. That's a plus. Now, the Kore belt is made in China. Now, that's not the end of the world, but I will say, and I guess I'll get into durability, this is my second Kore belt. Now, they have supposedly improved their design over time, but I did have a problem that the reinforcement in this belt, right, I don't know how well it shows up, but you kind of see where like it doesn't quite, like this hooked in and I'm not holding on to it, should kind of like form like a circular thing, and here there's a couple little points where it's like bent. I actually had the reinforcement in the belt break in two different places, basically making it that as far as a reinforced gun belt, it wasn't reinforced. I did have to go back and forth with the company a little bit to get it replaced, because basically I think they only put like a 1-year warranty, don't quote me on that. But I did have to go quite a few back and forth messages with them to get them to kind of stand behind it, because they were basically claiming that they had updated the design, and because they had updated the design and it was after a certain point, they weren't honoring any kind of warranty, and I was kind of on my own. Again, going back and forth enough, I did get them to send me a new belt part, which is their supposedly more reinforced, stronger material than what they were using. It has not broken yet, but I do notice that the belt here frays a little bit. Not world ending, I could easily trim these, and this is probably in part due to some of the, I've been using different holsters with like ulti clips and certain things. So, it's metal on nylon, it will wear a little bit. But since the replacement, I have not really noticed any big issue. Buckle has been fine. Buckle is nice and strong. No issues with it breaking. I've never had it give or let loose. It goes into its little track here in the back of the belt and has worked fine. Now, as far as quality of the Blue Alpha Gear belt, or durability, I should say, I've had no issues with this belt. The belt buckle, good, strong, no issues. Never had it come undone. This not fraying nearly as much. Again, there's a few tiny little areas where you notice a little tiny bit of wear. Again, it's a belt. I probably wore this every single day for a year straight. I've alternated back and forth between belts for certain situations, but for having the amount of wear on it, like I said, probably about 2 years of use and at least one solid year of wearing it. I've seen no major wear on this belt. So I gotta say, for quality, the Blue Alpha Gear takes the prize, I guess. Now, as far as versatility, here's where it gets complicated. So, in my review, I talked about how basically the Blue Alpha Gear belt suffers from the fact that once you adjust it, right? So say you adjust it and you carry the same way every day, you can pick this belt up, put it on your pants, put your gun on, and it's going to be, at the same, basic shape as needed each day. No fiddling, no adjusting. Where this belt falls a little bit slow is if you say, and sometimes this happens where maybe I carry inside the waistband one day, maybe the next day I'm carrying outside the waistband. If you want to change that, obviously depending upon how you change it, you might have to change your belt because you're going to have the inside circumference of your waistline change. When you do that, you've got to undo this Velcro, readjust it, snug it up, loosen it up, whatever you got to do, and then put the Velcro back down. Is that world ending? No, of course not. That's fairly simple. But it is definitely slower than the Kore gun belt, where you can just, okay, every time you put the belt on, you can kind of custom set it to exactly how you want. And you've got like 1/4-inch adjustments, which is really nice for, if you're carrying all day long, because sometimes, minor little adjustment here and there, it's a lot easier to just reach down and, maybe you like snug it up one more, and instead of having to, mess with a belt. So as far as versatility, I got to give it to the Kore belt. All right, so at this point, the American-made Blue Alpha belt, is more durable, whereas this is going to be a little more forgiving for having to, adjust its size. The next thing I want to talk about, and I guess this is kind of versatility, but it's a little bit different, is adaptability. The fact that sometimes I might wear a Kydex holster, sometimes I wear a leather holster. Different holsters, different attachment weight points, and all that. Now, when I did the review of this belt, right, which I want to say this belt pretty much passes with flying colors, whatever holster. I've not run into a holster that doesn't work with this belt. But with the Blue Alpha belt, I ran into an issue. Now, the problem is this Cobra buckle, right, it's big. It can kind of dig into you a little bit. Again, if you're sitting for long periods of time, I have noticed that this bit here will dig into you. But the standard leather holster, which is a 1791 holster, so a very popular holster brand, what I've noticed is, and these are a little bit smaller, the belt loops to go through, but I've had this with basically every brand leather holster I've tried, is you can't actually get either end of this belt. I don't know how well I can show it, but you cannot get either end of this belt through a leather, right? A leather holster. So what you end up having to do, and here's where I kind of will like stay away from wearing this if I know I'm going to be carrying a leather holster, is you have to undo this belt, fiddle, pull this completely off, this end completely off, feed it through your pants, through the holster, through the belt loops, come all the way back around, put this back on, then snug it down, then stick it back down. Now again, that is not world ending. None of the issues that I've had with either belt are world ending, but it is definitely something that if you're trying to get ready in a hurry, can be annoying. So that's a pretty good comparison of the two holsters. Which one at the end of the day would I prefer? That's a really tough question. If I'm going to carry the same thing every single day, maybe I'm just carrying, outside the waistband, and I'm doing it with a non-leather holster that I know that this will go through without having to take it apart, Blue Alpha Gear is really nice because, again, once you have the holster properly adjusted, you just unclip it, put it through your bolt, put the holster on, bam, done, no worries. With this, honestly though, I gotta say it's more versatile. You know, if I'm carrying a leather holster, this is the belt I go to because I know I don't have to take it apart like I do this one. If I'm, you know, going somewhere where, again, maybe I'm carrying inside the waistband and, you know I might have to adjust a few times. Maybe I'm carrying a new gun that I haven't really had a bunch of time, you know, to really get like the feel of how I want to carry it all day. Probably this belt. This belt is good, but like I said, at the end of the day, there's just a couple things about it that make the Kore belt a little bit better. Would I rather this one? Of course. But at the end of the day, I think I got to give it to the Kore belt. That's my quick comparison of these two belts. Put down below what you think. What gun belt do you use? You know, is there one more I should compare or something else I should test? Put down below what you think and have a good day.